Hi, my name is Katherine Hatfield. I'm a senior here at Maryville College. Feel free to ask questions anytime throughout my spiel. I'm going to go ahead and talk about my internship I did the summer between my junior year of college and my senior year of college during the summer of 2014. That's this past summer. I was a GIS intern with the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. It was a lot of fun. My main responsibilities were a lot of cartography and map making, data collecting, and just making digital maps on the computer. I did a lot of ground truthing. If you're not familiar with GIS, it stands for Geographic Information Systems. Maryville College offers a great GIS class. It's an upper level bio. I believe it's Bio 349. If you have a real interest in it and you're not a biology major, you can definitely talk to the professor, because I'm not a biology major and I had a great interest in it. And we talked and we decided that I could definitely give it a shot and try it out, and it worked out great. I did great, I loved it, and it definitely gave me a new skill set to use for my career and after graduation. I went about getting the internship after I took the class. I really enjoyed it. I decided I needed to get more experience with it to decide if I wanted to make a career out of it. So I started just Google searching some GIS internships. A lot of results came up. One that really stood out to me was the one in the Smoky Mountains, because it was really close to the college campus, and there were a lot of opportunities for things outside of GIS. So while I could spend 3 days a week doing GIS, I could do another day or two learning a new skill set, or working in a different part of the park, or working with a different department, so that I could get a real well-rounded experience in the park and maybe find some other portion of work that I really enjoyed as well. After I applied, I contacted my professor, and he really helped me get the ball rolling. He read my application before I submitted it and said it looked great. We actually ended up calling the supervisor for the position, because the professor had actually spoken to him previously about some GIS data for the GIS class. We went to go meet with Tom Colson. He was the supervisor at this GIS internship in the Smoky Mountain National Park. And we met with him. We took a hard drive. We got a lot of data for the GIS class. We had a really good conversation about GIS and the implications in the national park. And we got to meet face to face. And about a week later, he asked me to submit some research proposals, very simple, nothing extravagant, just a one-page, this is what I would like to do this summer if I was offered the internship. I threw that together in a couple of days, submitted it, and he gave me a call, we met, and he offered me the internship. I later found out that I had been competing with hundreds of other students, and being this close gave me an edge, because he was able to see my face. If it was just my resume on a stack of papers with everyone else, I probably never would have gotten the second look. But because I had that professor reach out and I had that close proximity to the national park, it gave me an edge that other students from other schools didn't have, and that was awesome. That really helped me out a lot in getting that internship. So the main duties I had were, I made a lot of maps using the computer and data that was already collected. I also took GPSs of all sorts, little handheld GPSs to big Trimble GPS units that could be accurate down to 10 centimeters, and collected all kinds of data. But my two main projects were working with geodisturbances and landslides in the national park, and vistas. So a vista is along all the roads in the Smoky Mountain National Park. There are these pull-offs with parking lots, and the ones where the trees have been cut down, that's a vista, and it's usually got a beautiful view that you can see right from your car. They're usually handicap accessible, which is a great resource to have, but there wasn't really a database that showed where they were and how often they were cleared and how much acreage was cleared. So my job was to go out with the GPS and map out how much area we hired construction companies to come clear and put them on a map. And with landslides, I just created a database of every landslide in the national park using aerial imagery, something as simple as Google Maps or aerial imagery that the national park has purchased year after year. Bing imagery was also a big resource. Along with aerial imagery, I did ground truthing, which is just getting out in the field, going hiking in the backcountry, and finding the trail. So I was getting paid and I was getting job experience to hike in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park, which was amazing. It was work, and I had to do my job, but at the same time, that's probably one of the best jobs I have in the world for a summer job when you're a college kid. I did a little bit of work with wetlands and wetland ecology, but not much, mostly just mapping out where the wetlands were. And those were my main duties. Some of the side jobs I had were I was on the search and rescue team. I went through a week of search and rescue training at the very beginning of my internship. I had a lot of search and rescue background before I came to the national park, but if you wanted to be on the team, you absolutely did not have to have any experience. They would give you everything and every skill you needed to have. That paid additionally to what I was given as a stipend for my internship. So if you got a call at 1 in the morning to come out and do a carry-out off of a trail, you'd be getting paid additionally for that, which was awesome because that's a lot of hard work. There were quite a few rescues. One of the questions says, did you participate in any real search and rescues? I did. Most of them weren't actual searching, but mostly just rescues. People would get on trails and break their ankle, and they can't get off the mountain by themselves. During the summer, we have about 60 rescues, sometimes less, sometimes more, depends on the summer. So we could get a call to go out maybe 5 times in 1 week, and sometimes we might not hear from them for 2 or 3 weeks. It all just depends on the weather and the tourism that's coming in at the time. Definitely a great skill set to have if you plan on working with the National Park Service after graduation, because their search and rescue teams usually are low staffed, and their main staff can get a little worn down doing their 40 hours a week. It's good to have a search and rescue team that can rotate who goes out in the field when. I also worked the synchronous firefly event, which was really cool. It is one of the only places in the world this happens where the fireflies during their mating season, they'll flash at the same exact time and make a really beautiful light display, and it's a natural light display, which makes it even cooler. It only happens for 1 week in the entire year, and they need national park staff to go and explain to people they have to stay on the trails and no flashlights, that sort of thing. That was great because you got to go out there and you got to work and you got to interact with people who are getting to see this amazing experience. And I actually met, if you've ever watched Mythbusters, Carrie Byron. She is she's the redhead on Mythbusters. She was there filming a documentary on the fireflies. We met, we shared dinner, we talked. It was really cool. Probably wouldn't have had that opportunity anywhere else. I did a little bit of vegetation salvage this summer as one of the other side jobs that I did. If they were planning on building a new road or a new vista or just a building and there were some really rare, valuable plants in the park, we would go as a team and dig them up safely and replant them somewhere else where they would thrive. I did some ginseng aging, where ginseng is a plant, and in the national park it is poached, and it's worth a lot of money, and it's illegal to take it from the park. So when it is poached, the rangers, if they hopefully catch the poachers, the ginseng has to be aged and documented. So I would spend hours every time we'd have a bust aging ginseng, which is a tedious job, but definitely beneficial to the park, and we can replant it and have it grow again so that it keeps redistributing throughout the park. Another very cool thing I did this summer that wasn't part of my main job was bird tagging. We would get to go and catch some birds, tag them, especially the more rare ones in the park, and release them again. Some of the really big pros of working for the national park this summer were that I had 3-day weekends every weekend. We worked something called 4-10s, where you work 10-hour shifts for 4 days, and then you don't work on Friday, or maybe you don't work on a Monday. You pick your day that you get off, but you would get 3 days off a week. It seems like a lot to work in one day, but especially if you're out in the field, you're going to be out there for long hours. You may need 10 hours to get a job done. So it works great. And then those 3-day weekends, when you're an intern, you can explore. You can go camping, you can go hiking, you can go to Cates Cove, you can go home. So if you live in the area and you want to go home for a weekend, you have that 3-day weekend as opposed to a 2-day weekend where you can do that. They provided housing for me for free, so I could live in the national park. I actually lived about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on Gatlinburg traffic, away from where my work site was. It was a great community. They put you with housemates, and you share a house, but you have your own room, which is nice. and you all hang out after work. Me and my housemate, we would go jogging every day, and the jogging trails were beautiful. We would watch movies, make dinner, and on the weekends we could all get together and go for a hike. It was just a great community. Even though there wasn't any internet and there wasn't any cable, we were never bored. We always had something to do. And I think that's something I always took for granted before I had this internship this summer, was that, what happens if we don't have television? What if we don't have internet? It feels like the world is ending, but it was great. It was refreshing, and internet was accessible. We could go down the hill and we would have internet. It was just in our houses that we didn't. So that was awesome. Being in a national park and not being completely isolated definitely helped, especially if I wanted to record my research or what I did that day. So group housing, like I said, housing was free. We carpooled a lot. And more pros of this internship was that we had a government experience, and when you work for the national government or the federal government, it gives you some experience that a lot of other students aren't going to have when they graduate, and that gives you a foot in the door for any other government job you may be pursuing. And the government could be working in Washington, D.C. or working in Yellowstone National Park, which is part of the government, and just a wide range. You've already done a background check, you've already had references, you make a lot of connections because you meet a lot of different people who are all willing to help and talk to you about what you want to do when you graduate, and you have a lot of people who will gladly be references for you when you do graduate and you meet a job. So when you have these job applications, when you graduate, they're going to see, okay, she did this internship with the National Park System, and then they're going to call your references, and they're going to say she did this and she did this and she did all of these amazing things that you're probably not going to get without that internship experience. My favorite part of the internship was probably the fireflies. I think that was great. It was a lot of fun. I got to meet Carrie Byron from Mythbusters, so definitely a big plus. And it's absolutely beautiful. You got to see it to believe it. I think I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Kelly. She's going to go ahead and talk to you about her internship.
Hi folks, my name is Kelly Wright. I am a senior here at Maryville College, and I had the opportunity to work as an intern for the Department of Linguistics at the University of South Carolina in Columbia this summer. Maryville College has an excellent center. It's called the Center for College Calling and Career, and I was able to meet the director, Dr. Winchester, on my first day here as a transfer. Transfer students to Maryville take a 2 or 3 day orientation before they begin, and people from lots of offices come and present, what kind of options are here on campus, what sorts of resources are available. And so I knew from day one that I was headed towards grad school, that Maryville was going to prepare me to have all the resources at my disposal to be able to apply for master's programs all over the country, and I would be able to be competitive. They were going to give me the tools to prepare myself for that. So Maryville College Center for Calling and Career gives 2 grants a year to students, and I was very fortunate to receive a grant. The internship that I got, I searched for 9 months. I must have emailed every linguistics department in the country, trying to find out if someone wanted a free intern to come and work. Because I had the grant, I was able to search for opportunities that were unpaid. And through networking, just getting in touch with several people at different organizations, bouncing around, we don't have anything, but you should call this person, you should call this person. I was hooked up with Dr. Michael Montgomery. He is the Professor Emeritus of Linguistics at the University of South Carolina, Columbia, and he is the author of the Dictionary of Smoky Mountain English. And in an interesting turn of fate, he ended up being a Maryville alum. So he graduated from Maryville and in the 60s, and he was just absolutely wonderful. He welcomed me instantly and taught me everything that he possibly could in the month that I spent in Columbia. We also worked for a second month, just telecommunicating and doing things on the internet. So I had a very varied experience there. I worked on several research projects, but it's important to note that I'm not a linguistics major. I'm an English literature major, and I had the opportunity to do this internship, and it was essential for me to get experience in the field I want to pursue for graduate study. Most students who go on to linguistics don't minor in it. It's not something that's a traditional undergraduate major, but if in a similar way, my experience was invaluable. It's going to make me competitive. It's going to make my applications stand out in a considerable way when I complete my graduate school applications this semester. So I worked a little bit on the dictionary tasks. I think that it may be sound a little boring, but I was able to search through the Oxford English Dictionary and do some research into language development. Looking at language in our area, in the Appalachians, people perceive Southern speech as perhaps a little less intelligent, but it has just as rich of a history as any other dialect, and it's actually more comprehensive than you can imagine. So I was able to look up words like poke salad and y'all and things like that, and see where they came from, and what sorts of people who came into this area spoke words like that to begin with, and just learning the general skills of putting together a dictionary, like what an entry looks like. You start with a bolded word, and then you have an italicized code, and what does that mean, and how do you put that together? And that is just an unparalleled skill to have going forward in the humanities in any field. And so it was technical experience like that. I also did several transcription projects. And the transcription projects were either taking handwritten letters from Irish immigrants, which if you've ever seen handwriting from the 17th century, you know that it's a little different than the way that we write now. So it was interesting looking at the development of handwriting and the sorts of things that the people who settled this area wrote. And I took those handwritten letters and digitized them, and then actually typed them in using transcription code and transcription software. And I was also able to learn how to use programs to transcribe vocal histories, oral histories. So I was fortunate enough to be able to use original WPA wire recordings of slave narratives. So these were some of the oldest recordings, recording devices that people went and took and talked to people right after the Civil War, and the people whose parents lived through slavery and were experiencing life after slavery. And so I took their information and was able to make a digital record of it, so that the stories that they left behind now have a place, and so you can actually read those. They're on the Thomas Cooper Library digital archives. And I also was able to learn just more than you can imagine from Dr. Montgomery. We spent hours and hours talking about what linguistics was and what the different fields of it looked like from a graduate perspective. So what sorts of research would you do if you were looking at historical linguistics? Would you be looking at how words are spelled, or how a certain word has been used, how words change over time, and what sorts of people use different types of language? Or would you be looking at how language is processed in the media, or how people, reading the same thing can come to a different conclusion about a certain work's meaning and things like that? Or how language is processed in the brain. I mean, what is it when we hear a certain word? So he really helped me understand the difference between the fields of linguistics, and help me nail down a specialty, which was something that was invaluable to me, because I haven't had the opportunity to have classes in that major. We do have a few here. We've got 4 classes in that major, but it is something that I was desperate for experience in, and it was unparalleled. So I have a question here about, does Maryville College offer internships that relate to human or medical biology? I mean, I would say that in any field, in any major here, our professors are excellent. They go above and beyond to help you figure out what you need to do. Like I said, grad school is an option. It is the goal for our students here. Everything here is preparing you to have those resources and put you on that track. So all of our professors are incredibly approachable, and anyone will be able to help you at least line something up. So I'm not in the natural and behavioral sciences department. I can't speak specifically to something that we necessarily offer or connections that we have, but every major has a coordinator for internships and practica. So for me specifically in English literature, a practicum or an internship is not required to graduate, but many majors do require at least some sort of practica hours. So every department is going to have somebody who can help you facilitate that. I did a lot of work on my own because my internship was outside of the purview of my department, but I had full support. I mean, they would have reached out for me if I had, absolutely needed it. And the Center for Calling and Career has been, that's why they're here. They're here to help you get your resources. They can help you write a good resume and, prepare your grad school applications. They can help you get a job in the area while you're here. But they also have an extensive network of resources to help you connect with internships all over the country. So I'm sure that Maryville College can, if we don't offer something specific, we can help you find something specific in the field that you're looking for. That's an excellent question. So I did do a couple different things while I was there. I was able to live on the college campus. Dr. Winchester navigated a bureaucratic logjam to get Maryville to pay South Carolina to pay me to stay there, and it was interesting living on that campus. I was also able to go to 2 professional level conferences with Dr. Montgomery, which was excellent. I met a world-renowned illustrator. Her name is Anita Lobel. So if you've read pretty much any children's literature, you've seen her illustrations over the years. It's a very recognizable style. She was at the Children's Literature Association conference, and I was able to actually go and sit as a guest and observe the linguistics panel in children's literature, which they were focusing on Appalachian English, so it was very relevant to what things we do here, sorts of studies we do here at Maryville. And I was able to go to the University of Georgia, Athens, and meet with their graduate coordinator, meet with a world-renowned linguist. His name is Bill Ketchmar. He does the Linguistic Atlas Project. So that is basically, if you Google LAGS, L-A-G-S, and you go online, you can see a map of where people use the word pop and where they use the word Coke, and it's coded and things like that. So that's a project that's actually been going on for about 25 years. It kind of changed the face of modern linguistic studies in the digital age, and so I was able to sit down with him and meet him, make excellent connections with people at conferences, and so that was an unparalleled opportunity that happened to me there. So it was wonderful. The whole place was absolutely amazing, and the people were amazing. It was something that I wouldn't have been able to provide for myself if it hadn't been for the grant that I received. So do you all have any final questions? It looks like we have everything answered. I have a question here about, does this experience make me feel like this was a career I'd like to pursue? And I would say absolutely. With my degree in English literature, when I first came to Maryville, I intended to teach English at the college level, which is something that you need a master's degree for. If you want to teach, above high school, it's not a teaching certificate, it's a specialization in your major. And so I was able to really get my feet wet. Actually sit down and do research, and a lot of it was plugging stuff into the computer and looking things up and getting dusty in the archives, but I really realized that it was something that interests me, that I truly fell in love with it when I got out of the classroom and into the real world and started experiencing it. Does that mean that I don't love literature anymore and that I'm not going to miss the opportunity to teach people about great works of art that I've loved for forever? I mean, absolutely not. But this is something that is definitely more applicable to the commercial world. I will be able to find jobs for the government or for private companies or at a university or doing research, for anyone. I mean, linguists do all sorts of things. They work in computer science. They teach Siri how to listen to you. We work all over the world and get to see and talk to lots of people. I was able to go to Ghana in West Africa in January. I spent a month there and did research, talked to people about their experiences during their independence movement and what it means to build a new African nation using the English language. So it's really unparalleled, and getting my feet wet with this internship. I never would have known exactly what I was going into until I showed up at grad school, so it is good to know what I was headed towards. So, all right, folks, I'll give you guys just a few minutes to ask a few more questions, and I guess we will wrap up shortly. All right, so if there are no more questions, if you end up having questions for Katherine or myself, tonight you can email admissions@maryvillecollege.edu. So that's MARYVILLECOLLEGE, no spaces, .edu. And you guys will be connected with us if you want to ask us specific questions directly. And thank you for tuning in this evening. Goodbye.